Ungrateful. That is the only word I can muster for these savages. We gave them everything. The network, colonies across the system. We raised the standard of living to such a degree no one in the past could even imagine. And how do they repay us? With rebellion. Fine. Burn their little domes to the ground. Let Mars feel the wrath of its parent. Let's see how well they like it when they are the ones hunted. Send in the fleet. The story you are about to hear is a culmination of interviews I have conducted with veterans, as well as excerpts from surviving journal entries and battle damage assessments. I have also taken the liberty of comprising supporting work from my peers and wish to credit them in their help of creating this series. I have endeavored to my fullest capacity to provide a raw, unbiased insight into how our most tragic story came about. It has been my life's honor to assemble these stories, and I proudly present them as a warning to all who may hear it, so that we do not repeat the mistakes of the Axiom Wars. It may be very naive, or even foolish to me to think that this may prevent such a disastrous conflict in the future, but there is still hope. May our descendants forgive us and remember these stories. Dr. David Sparrow, Chief Anthropologist of the University of Luna, March 18th, 2789 AD. On May 17, 2283, members of the Lunar Security Forces and members of the EDF, the Earth Defense Force, are rudely awakened to explosions and small arms fire. To their great dismay, they discover they were under attack by terrorist cells, who would later on be identified as the Red Front, members of the Martian resistance. The war between Earth and Mars had truly begun. Damn them. Damn every politician. Damn every aristocrat. Damn every general I tried to warn. I knew this was going to happen. Battle damage assessment, May 17, 2300, 2283 AD. I was awakened by small arms fire and explosions within the facility. When I gathered my men, I discovered I already lost 40% personnel. They hit the damn barracks. Not only did they hit our barracks, but then they hit the intelligence network. They hit our radio towers, they hit our computers, the servers were down, half my base didn't even have electricity. And by the time I even got my arms loop open and got my men equipped, what happens then? They start getting mowed down by machine guns. They knew where we were, they knew our passwords, they knew the security codes, they knew everything, and they hit us while we were sleeping. The damn cowards. I'm lucky to be alive. Captain John McCormack, 557th Light Infantry Brigade, EDF. Members of the Red Front, the Martians' resistance cells, knew they needed to take Luna out of the action before the war even began. You see, Luna was of immense strategic importance to Earth. It was a major logistical hub. It housed multiple AI server and data networks, and on top of that, there was already an immense growing presence of EDF forces on the moon. They had to go if Mars' resistance and their eventual revolution was to be successful. This reasoning is what spurred the intensity of the Martian tactics. The battle for Luna deteriorated into a brutal close-quarters combat in the subterranean tunnels beneath all the lunar bases. While the surface was scorched by kamikaze drones and air support from the Martian resistance, majority of the fighting took place underground. In the dark, without much life support or any means of sustainment, the EDF tried to hold on as best they could, often collapsing tunnels and fighting inch by inch, even though they knew it was a losing battle. 2 days into the fighting, The Earth Defense Force and the Lunar Security Forces were declared combat ineffective due to casualties and extreme loss. On the third day of the battle, the Red Front declared total victory over Luna, Earth's moon. This would become one of the great embarrassments and one of many to come for Earth in this war. From the Martian perspective, already this operation was a tremendous success. They had bloodied the nose of the great tyrant Earth, and now they knew a response was underway. A response did they get? On May 21st, Task Force Orion launched from Earth. The task force comprised of 15 frigates, 10 troop transports, along with an additional 350 close air support fighter craft, and then an additional 200 dedicated fighters. On board this task force was 25,000 troopers from the EDF. Unbeknownst to Earth High Command, however, this task force, Task Force Orion, was the true target of the insurrection. It wasn't enough that they took out Luna Base or the logistical hubs, or even the troop barracks on the moon. The true target was eliminating as many of these troopers and transports as they could, showing the rest of the solar system that they could win this war. On May 28th, Task Force Orion made contact with Earth's moon. Now, even though they had only taken a week to get there, that much amount of time was all the Red Front needed to begin their trap. On May 28th, Orion's trap was sprung, and the battle for Orion's landing began. To say the Red Front ambushed Task Force Orion would be a bit of an understatement. You see, Task Force Orion effectively face-planted into a bear trap, and it was the fault of the Earth Admiralty themselves. You see, at the time of the assault, they didn't close down the shipping lanes. Now, this is a drastic miscalculation on their part because they underestimated the involvement of the Red Front. How? You see, majority of the cargo ships that were circling the Luna base were manned by the Red Front, and suffice to say, their shipping manifestos were a bit incorrect. Majority of the cargo ships weren't actually carrying fuel or supplies, they were carrying anti-ship missiles. And this was how the trap was so perfect. You see, when the Admiralty sent in Task Force Orion, they did a bare minimum scan of the orbit around Earth's moon, and they didn't see any enemy ships or aircraft. All they saw were civilian ships orbiting the moon, and they thought nothing of it. And this is why the EDF lost 5 frigates, the EDN Artemis, the EDN Demeter and Ishtar, as well as the LDN Orion and Lemire. In addition to this, they also lost 3 troop transports, equaling out to 9,000 troopers lost, all within the span of the first 10 minutes of arriving at the moon. To make matters worse, the Red Front was extremely dug in. That week of time for the Task Force Orion to make their voyage to the moon was all the time they needed to prepare. By the time Orion even arrived in orbit, even before the trap was sprung, already the Red Front was zeroing in from surface to orbit anti-ship missiles. Combined with the fact that they were taking immense loss and they couldn't directly identify targets while risking immense civilian casualties, now the EDF had to figure out how the hell were they going to land troops on a hostile surface. And this is where the battle for Orion truly becomes such a massacre. They had to orbit the moon and blast it using onboard heavy munitions, bombs, and strafing them from close air support and jets. And this was a perfect, absolutely perfect opportunity for the Red Front. Why? The entire time this battle was playing out, they were recording everything. On every data network portal in the solar system, video after video after video was shown to the rest of the colonists throughout our system. Videos of the EDF destroying civilian cargo ships, the EDF bombarding the moon. It was a public relations nightmare for the EDF and the EDN. As footage of the EDF and EDN destroying civilian ships spread across the solar system, riots inevitably erupted across major population centers in all the colonies of Earth, and this put immense pressure both on the Admiralty and the actual leadership of Earth. During a tactical meeting with his advisors, the Prime Minister of Earth, Charles Duluth, effectively gave his standing orders to quote, "I don't give a damn. I don't care how much these animals protest, and I don't care how many more losses we take. Take the moon now." And so, on June 5th, 2283, Task Force Orion began troop descent on the orbit of the moon. They did so at catastrophic losses, without proper air support and air superiority, and without establishing dominance over the orbit of the moon. They were effectively at the mercy of the gunners from the surface-to-orbit missile batteries on the moon. Majority of the troop transports did not make it on ground, and Task Force Orion suffered almost 80% casualties. Those that survived were then harassed by small arms fire, crew-served weapons, and kamikaze drones. To make matters worse, they had just landed on the surface and had even established dominance in the subterranean battlefield that was the tunnels and underground bases of the Earth's moon. So far, so forth, this was a catastrophic disaster for the leadership of Earth and a triumphant success for Mars. Even if the Red Front was wiped out on the moon, which they inevitably would be, they would only become martyrs to an already enraged populace of Earth's colonies. The war, having freshly begun, was already being won by one of Earth's colonies. To make matters worse, it was Mars, her crown jewel, that was causing all of this strife. As fighting raged across the surface of Earth's moon, eventually reaching the subterranean levels, what we begin to see is a prime example of how the Red Front would conduct this war. Majority of Red Front soldiers were committed to the cause, ready to die for what they believed in, and to showcase this, they wore effectively what we would call body cams. So they had apparatus and software within their helmets and gear that was able to record what was happening, and this was live streamed to their homes back on Mars. Majority of grieving families would often showcase this footage, showing, hello, this is what my loved one did. This is how they're fighting for our people. And it was tremendously successful. As this war progressed beyond the moon, it became increasingly clear that this war would not just be fought with bombs and soldiers and drones and aircraft, but with social media, with the actual spread of word of mouth. And with growing horror, the leadership of Earth realized that the situation was spiraling beyond their means of control. As the Earth Defense Force trudged through the underground tunnels of the subterranean levels of the moon, the government of Earth began a practice known as the Great Blackout, meaning they shut down the data network. For reference, majority of communication and means of media that was connecting the colonies of Earth at the time was called the data network, and this platform was effectively what they shut down. Instead of allowing people to speak and show what was going on during the war, they blasted their own propaganda. Even before the battle was fully over, Earth declared total dominance over Luna and declared that the Red Front was wiped out, which was untrue at the time. And this sprung an entirely new problem for Earth. This was called the Pirate Network, a group of hackers and pirate radio show hosts that began streaming what they saw, both the body cam footage from the Red Front, as well as journal entries and their own version of what we call memes and propaganda outside the data network, which the Earth Central Intelligence Agency couldn't control. And this would become the wildfire that the government of Earth would desperately try to put out as the war progressed. With all that being said, of course, at the end of June 2283, Luna was effectively occupied by the EDF and victory was actually assumed. However, now the government of Earth had a massive problem. They were effectively at war with a terrorist organization housed by their great jewel, the colony of Mars. As the EDF scrambled to draw up plans regarding a special military operation, questions began arising. Would this remain a global war on terror, but on an intergalactic scale, so to speak, or intersolar scale? Or would this deteriorate into full-on planetary conflict? The answer will be revealed in the next episode. This has been Simon. Welcome to the Soapbox. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you that subscribes and likes. If you wish to support the channel, I encourage you to share and like. That being said, have a good one. I'll see you in episode 2.